I will speak now about the 7 lines of work. The work concerns within and without, and there is also in this an active state and a receptive state. There is one kind of work which consists in our active searching for what we need. That's where we're active in order to get something from without. Study properly belongs to that line. It can be called search, but it's more than search because it is really taking in and assimilating by one's own activity and intention. It is this first line of work that drives one to seek a teacher, a source. It begins perhaps by reading. There are quite a variety of things that belong to this, but they're all characterized by our active striving to get the help we need, the mental food, the spiritual food that we need from those who have it, or in some cases from nature. The second kind of work is that which goes on inside us. It is the action between one part of our nature and another. This we call inner work. When seeking to overcome in ourselves ill will and graspingness, self-love and so on, this is the struggle of one part of us with another, a very necessary work. This is where the work is very often painful. It involves perhaps self-denial. In fact, in some form or another, it is always self-denial, because one part of us affirms against another one that rejects. That work on oneself, or inner work, has, as you can see, many different aspects. The third is where the work is from the inside to the outside. This is service, where we give from what we have. This is also necessary for us, and there cannot be self-perfecting without service. The principle of service is always, and in everything, to give more than we take, and to use our own powers to contribute to the spiritual progress of the world, from ourselves, and from what we are able to do with such means as we possess. This is the third line of work. The fourth line I leave for the moment, because it's a special thing that comes up at the end. In each case, the lines I have described depend upon something active on our part. Then there is this struggle with oneself, where we have to be active towards ourselves, not let ourselves be weak and lazy and self-indulgent or self-loving or ill-willful. And there is the active work to help others, to serve the world and to serve nature. Then comes the fifth line, where we have to be receptive. This is exemplified in the seeker who goes to the teacher and says, "Will you teach me?" And the teacher says, "Will you let yourself be taught?" To be receptive, to allow oneself to be helped, is not so easy. That is, to know when to do something from oneself, to allow oneself to be directed, to allow oneself to be shown. The need here is for trust, for acceptance. This enables something to be given to us that we couldn't take for ourselves. Gurdjieff has a very pretty story to describe this, about what he calls the squirming idiot. He says that this idiot is like a fish out of water. A fish is on the side of the bank and can't get back, and it knows that if it doesn't get back into the water, it will die. And a compassionate man goes by and wants to save this fish, and he picks the fish up, but the fish wriggles out of his hands and he can't put him back, and he tries and he cannot, until the fish is too far gone to be helped. To be able to be quiet enough, to be able to be receptive enough, to allow ourselves to be helped, is also a work, and for some people it is a particularly difficult line to follow. It is also part of group work, so that when one is in a group, one does accept to really be part of the group. I think that what I said at the beginning about not being special also enters into this. To be able to abandon the idea that one is special opens many doors that can never open by any activity or by any force of one's own. That belongs to the fifth line. The sixth line is from within. It is the really spiritual action. This is the core of meditation. Really, the essence of meditation is to allow oneself to be taken by the Spirit into a different state. It is different. This is not help coming from outside. It is wholly within. In this sense, there is no one else but oneself and the Spirit, or the light of the Spirit, you can call it, or whatever word you like to use for this. What matters is to learn to give oneself to the Spirit and to put oneself aside. It is said, resist not the Spirit. This kind of inner responsiveness, really to know how to let oneself go under a spiritual action and to put aside any idea of doing anything oneself, belongs to the sixth line. The seventh line is the line of grace, of action that has no why to it. Something comes to us that we haven't earned, that we couldn't have brought about by ourselves, that we haven't even prepared ourselves for, and a door is opened. This seventh is necessary. Without this, there would be no chance for us, because there are some things that cannot possibly be earned. This is the divine action in the soul. As far as this action is concerned, every part of us is without. Therefore, it is really an action from within to without, from God to the soul, in this case. This happens even without our wish, even sometimes against our wish. Sometimes things happen to us that we regard as misfortunes, that we would wish had not happened. And then later we see that this was the one blessing that made something possible for us, and we become thankful, but not at the time of its happening. This is why it is very different from the sixth line. As in the sixth line, our own responsiveness, our own opening ourselves inwardly is required. Meditation doesn't force itself upon us, doesn't overcome our will, but grace does. Grace shows itself in the very simplest thing of all, and that is when thought such as remembering the reason of life comes into us, quite unbidden. There we are, thinking quite different kinds of thoughts, and then something reminds us. Suddenly we remember that this is not what we're here for. Such a very simple change of state inside ourselves that we know is not earned and couldn't be earned because we were not in a position, not in a state where we could earn it. We were lost in dreams or in some state, some emotional state maybe. It gives us the chance of looking at things differently. All of that, from the simplest to the most profound, all that kind of gratuitous action, the grace of God, belongs to the seventh line. And it's true that without this, there would be no other line. Everything starts really from this. Now, what is the fourth line, which I've left to last? In the fourth line, we're neither active nor passive. It is manifestation. It is when it passes through us, when we can use all our powers, but we are not using them in our own name. That is why it's different from service. Manifestation is really and truly a state of possession. The Spirit takes possession, and what we say and do is not ours. We are neither active nor passive. In the simplest forms, it is when we have to play some role. For example, I am now playing the role of teaching you, but I am not entitled to teach you, nor do I teach you from myself. What I am telling you didn't come from me. It happens that it didn't come from any person. Some time ago, when I was talking one day, all this came. It was manifestation of a spiritual power or a spiritual presence. This comes whenever we have to fulfill a role. And don't attempt to do anything when we're neither active nor passive, but just go with it. This is best expressed in Tao. The wise men of old didn't do anything, neither actively nor passively, and yet by their presence everything was done. The presence of one such man would ensure the welfare of a state, and so on. This is a high way of looking at manifestation, but we also have to do it in a simple way. When we are in front of some role to be played, and we're not concerned with ourselves, and don't imagine that it's we who are doing anything. I am playing at this moment the role of teaching you, and you are playing the role of listener. Your role is just as important and just as necessary. All of these lines are important. It is not possible to have a balanced life unless all of them are present in us. When they're all present, it is the right state. If you ask how much time should be spent in one line and how much time should be spent in another, that's not so easy a question to answer, you know. The true inner work is timeless. It's only the preparation for it that takes time.